Hello, everybody, and welcome to Friday Apocryphal Podcast, your one-stop shop for everything Friday Apocryphal and podcast. And boy, do we have a show for you today. Today we are covering 2nd Enoch chapters 23 through 37. We've had better.
Yeah.
And also, we are a little bit late on the show.
Because OBS sucks.
Yeah, that was.
I think it got better now. It looks nice.
Yeah, it does. The green
boy,
screen.
Did it suck updating it as per usual. Sorry, we didn't do a check faster. We had a whole half hour we could have used if we had just turned on the capture device. A little earlier.
Yeah, we would have noticed immediately.
But guys, look.
Yeah, the green screen is way better now.
I'd like to
which is really nice.
Welcome screen is there. We go. Yeah, the green screen got updated to the point where it's almost seamless.
Yeah, and maybe this time we can have green in the background picture without it being distorted. Who knows? We'll find out.
Or other things like it's yellow.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess we'll find out.
Guys, look, yellow isn't green.
That's incredible. I didn't know that.
Tell that to like Play-Doh.
Isn't amazing.
But you know what? Luckily, we got it working. OBS wouldn't even open for a little bit. So we did some fiddling around with it, and it works now, which is good. Very good. And you know what else I hope is very good?
2nd Enoch.
2nd Enoch. That's right. You got it. That's a gold star for you. Here,
Wow.
take a scratch and sniff sticker.
I'm going to put it on my fridge.
Yeah, that's exactly where you want it. So... yeah, we are hopping back into 2nd Enoch today. The first episode on this one, Enoch went through 10 heavens.
Yeah, and they got, kind of nuts there.
They did, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But, we're going to continue that kind of energy. And it looks like from this...
In this OBS update, sorry to interrupt, I can just click on the text and edit it without opening up a bunch of BS. It's just there. It's just ready to be edited.
Oh, that is nice.
Wow.
That's really nice.
Like I can even show you that. Like,
oh, okay. Okay, great.
Look at that. Right there. Just put it in right there instead of
I see. Okay, that's very
crazy?
good. That is good, yeah.
All right. Sorry, just throwing it out there.
Okay, so it looks like we were talking about the different versions.
And speaking of versions, I'm reading the Books of Enoch Complete Edition, including 1st Enoch, the Ethiopian Book of Enoch, 2nd Enoch, the Slavonic Secrets of Enoch, 3rd Enoch, the Hebrew Book of Enoch.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the $4.99. I hope you also are having a happy Friday.
Yeah, by Paul C. Schneiders, translated by R.H. Charles.
And I have the Old Testament Pseudepigrapha, Volume 1, from James H. Charlesworth. And yeah, we were talking about the different versions, right? There's a longer one and a shorter one, and they're based off different traditions. And it looks like in this chapter we're going to get more of those differences. The longer version is, it is substantially lengthier. There's, just looking at them side by side here, there's a lot more in chapter 23, especially, that appears in the longer version, but not in the shorter one.
Yes. So,
it's generally that way, but it's not like all the time. So yeah, it's we're gonna take a look at some differences.
Yes, and we've just finished talking about the 10th heaven.
Yeah, so that's where God's sitting, right? And now I think Enoch is on his way to speak to God.
Yeah, and at the end of chapter 22, God summoned the archangel Pravuel, who's apparently smarter than the other archangels.
This is the scribe,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, and the name is different. There is Revoil or Veravale. So it's the name is a little bit different. I'm guessing it's I don't know if it's like a different reading of like a letter or if it's just a transliteration thing. But either way, the name is a little bit different, but it's the same angel.
And he handed him this this pen and paper, I guess.
Yeah.
So now we're hopping into chapter 23. And he was telling me all the works of heaven, earth, and sea, and all the elements, their passages and goings, and the thunderings of the thunders, the sun and moon, the goings and changes of the stars, the seasons, years, days, and hours, the risings of the wind, the numbers of the angels, and the formation of their songs, and all human things, the tongue of every human song in life, the commandments, instructions, and sweet-voiced singings, and all things that it is fitting to learn. And Pravuel told me, all the things that I have told you we have written. Sit and write all the souls of mankind, however many of them are born, and the places prepared for them to eternity. For all souls are prepared to eternity, before the formation of the world. And all double 30 days and 30 nights, and I wrote out all things exactly, and wrote 366 books.
That is quite a lot of books.
Yes, that is chapter
like
23.
A day and a leap day.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at some of the commentary here. Most of it is about the differences between the versions, and for the last section there, I suppose. And I wrote 366 books. The recensions divide consistently over the number of books produced, whether 360 or 366. When Popov published the 1679 Poltava copy in 1880, he searched for evidence of the earlier circulation of this hitherto unknown work. He found a book called Enoch mentioned in a list of disapproved books in a 14th century manuscript, and a later list mentions it looks like a lot of different forms of Enoch, but the translation here okay, I see. So Enoch, about Enoch, who was at the fifth heaven and wrote 300 books. And he notes here that he was not able to confirm this information.
That's interesting. But now we're in chapter 24. And the Lord summoned me and said to me, Enoch, sit down on my left with Gabriel.
On the left?
Yeah.
That's just disrespectful.
With Gabriel.
With Gabriel.
So
but on the left.
How are they going to sit here? Is Enoch going to sit on Gabriel's lap?
Maybe there's just another seat next to him.
No, angels can fit on your shoulder.
Oh, yep. You know what? That's where they're going.
Could you imagine the Ezekiel angels sitting on your shoulder?
That would be crazy. I'd be really confused.
Freaked out by whatever's on my shoulder there.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I bowed down to the Lord, and the Lord spoke to me, Enoch, beloved, all that you see, all things that are standing finished, I tell to you, even before the very beginning, all that I created from non-being, and visible physical things from invisible spiritual.
And so yeah, as we just mentioned, he's sitting on the left, right? And the commentary here mentions the same thing, like why is it on the left and not on the right? And it goes on to say that the position assigned to Enoch elsewhere is different. Quote, standing in front of the face of the Lord.
Yes. Also, does he mean like his left?
Probably God's left.
Could be God's left.
Maybe that was the confusion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe you're onto something there.
But also, so God's just confirmed that the way that he made the world,
well, it says sit to the left of me,
was something out of nothing.
Yeah.
Right. So that's reasonable, right?
I mean, ex nihilo, right? That's that's the idea that modern Christians, I think, and modern Jews hold. Although it was different in the ancient world, they did have a different understanding when these texts were written.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that it is presented, ex nihilo is a pretty easy conclusion you can reach from reading it.
Right. And also, spiritual things are invisible. Hear, Enoch, and take in these my words, for not to my angels have I told my secret, and I have not told them their rise, nor my endless realm, nor have they understood my creating, which I tell you today.
You said, okay, so have I explained my secrets, nor I have the translation, nor related to them their origin.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, did you say their, or did it say my, as in?
I have not told them their rise.
Okay.
For before all things were visible, physical, I alone used to go about in the invisible, spiritual things, like the sun from east to west and from west to east. But even the sun has peace in itself. Well, I found no peace, because I was creating all things, and I conceived the thought of placing foundations and of creating visible, physical creation.
Yeah, he invented inventing.
Yes, he conceived the thought of creating.
Yeah.
Now we're in chapter 25. I commanded in the very lowest parts that visible physical things should come down from invisible spiritual, and a doyle came down very great, and I beheld him.
So there is an actual
and
note
lo,
here.
he had a belly of great light.
So there's a note here about the ex nihilo conversation. So the texts of the two recensions are not the same at this vital point, but the picture is not altogether clear in either of them. Both agree that creation arose from a restlessness or lack of equilibrium in God himself at the very first, in contrast to the stability of the sun's movement. So the longer ascensions seem closer to the doctrine of creation ex nihilo than the others, since they say more absolutely, quote, I was the only one, whereas the shorter ones say, like one of them. There's a recension that is quite clear in its reading, like one of the invisible things. Even so, the impression remains that God was not the only existent being or thing from the very first, although each recension gives this impression in its own way. Both agree that God made the existent out of the non-existent, the visible out of the non-invisible, out of the non-visible. So the invisible things coexisted with God before he began to make anything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's in the shorter recensions.
Who is a doyle?
Which verse?
First verse of chapter 25, man.
Oh, right. Hold on. Yeah, because I have introductions here for every single chapter.
Yay!
Okay.
So yeah, sorry. Okay, so a doyle. Maybe that's another angel, I'm guessing. I'm going to look for some stuff on a doyle, but I guess continue reading.
It says, and a doyle came down very great, and I beheld him, and lo, he had a belly of great light. And I said to him, become undone, a doyle, and let the visible physical come out of you. And he came undone, and a great light came out. And I was in the midst of the great light, and as there is born light from light, there came forth a great age, and showed all creation, which I had thought to create. And I saw that it was good. And I placed for myself a throne, and took my seat on it, and said to the light, go thence up higher, and fix yourself high above the throne, and be a foundation to the highest things. And above the light there is nothing else. And then I bent up and looked up from my throne. That's the end of chapter 25. So this Adoyle character, I guess God does not create light. right? Because God just calls Adoyle down, and Adoyle has the light in him, and then he's like, become undone. And then Adoyle dies, I guess, and the light comes out of his corpse or something.
So I'm trying to figure out some of this commentary. It seems okay. So I think we get more about this on. I think we get more about this in the next chapter, actually. So we have Adoyle.
Well, there's a different character that pops up in the next chapter.
Yeah, I think they're meant to be viewed dualistically.
Then I'll read the next chapter. Chapter 26. And I summoned the very lowest a second time and said, let Arcas come forth hard. And he came forth hard from the invisible spiritual. And Arcas came forth hard, heavy, and very red. And I said, be opened, Arcas, and let there be born from you. And he came undone. An age came forth, very great and very dark, bearing the creation of all lower things. And I saw that it was good, and said to him, go thence down below, and make yourself firm, and be a foundation for the lower things. And it happened, and he went down and fixed himself, and became the foundation for the lower things. And below the darkness there is nothing else.
Yeah, so the dualism between light and dark, right? So the dualism of light and darkness arises from two primal beings, Adoyle and Arukas. Second Enoch does not say that God created them, but they are clearly under his control. This light and darkness are cosmophysical, not spiritual or ethical. They cannot be connected with the dualism of the Bogomils, which is quite outright. And then it quotes here, there are two originals, one good, the other evil. So it seems like so it doesn't say that he created them, but I think we're supposed to assume that he created them, right? Because he said earlier that he just conceived of creating, and then he did that. So you would assume that he created these like vessels of light and darkness, and then he's like, now I'm gonna unleash all that. So I guess maybe that's where it was like stored before they were released to like the world.
In this entire metaphor, perhaps the imaginary or the invisible spiritual world is just everything that you can think of, like everything that can be thought of, and he brought it from being unthought of into being thought of, and thus created it.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. First thinker kind of thing. Not just first mover, first thinker.
Right. I mean that I think that would make sense.
That tracks somewhat, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm guessing that this is like where the light was and the darkness was stored before he was like, and here is day and here is night in Genesis.
Mm-hmm.
Are you looking up what these things mean, I'm guessing?
I'm looking up references to Adoyle and Arcas, and I found what looks like a piece of fiction.
So the connection between visible and invisible is not clear. The confusion in the manuscripts reflects a tension between telling the stories of Adoyle and Arcas along the same lines as against the idea that Arcas produces darkness and so perhaps is never visible. In this cosmogony, then, both light and darkness come out of the original invisible, each becoming visible in its own way. Yeah, and then it relates there, Genesis 3. So
there's other traditions that talk about light and darkness.
Yeah, plenty. Like, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Which just makes sense.
I mean, this is probably something that stems off of that. But the names Adoyle and Arcas, from my brief Google search, I can't find anything else that features them at all. So this might just be a creation of the author of Second Enoch.
The name Arcas invites identification with the Greek arche, not unexpected in cosmology. Arche is one of the most fundamental concepts of pre-Socratic physics, and it remained in currency right down through the Neoplatonists. The ending "os," however, which is not Slav, poses a doubt. The plural is met when two or more primal beings or substances are in mind, but the translator of 2nd Enoch knew to render this literally as beginnings. It is worth noting that Damascus, last of the pagan Neoplatonic philosophers, it is still Damascus, just spelled differently than the city. Quotes from the Babylonian.
Is it Damasius?
Is that it? Is that how you pronounce it?
I think so.
Okay, then I guess Damasius, I suppose. Last of the pagan Neoplatonic philosophers, quotes from the Babylonian creation epic and identifies the two ultimate principles of Babylonian cosmology, the primal water elements, Apsu and Tiamat, as Archai. But the Bible could have supplied the vocabulary of this section. Thus, Proverbs 8:22 through 26 mention Arche twice.
Well, I know, like the Gnostics talk about the archons.
Yeah.
Right, but it's not clear to me that that's exactly what they're referring to. It might be where the name comes, or at least the root of the name.
So
there's some more on this.
I have a quick throw in as well for this. It's just that there's in many fiction and non-fictional belief structures, the first two things were pulled out of nothing or were spiritual things, and they were juxtaposed forces. Whatever they were juxtaposed, you know?
Well, yeah.
That's clear.
Clear.
Right.
But it also always has it that those things break down into another version of juxtaposed forces and not themselves. And I'm not sure why. Like, think of Elder Scrolls lore, Pelu, and I forget the other one. It's a harder name, but Sithis gets spawned from the other one. So
yeah.
you know what I'm talking about. They take it from somewhere. They had to get it from somewhere.
Yeah, but that's not always the case in mythology.
True.
A lot of times these original, like in the Bible, it's just darkness and light. They don't have like a pre-darkness and pre-light that become darkness and light.
Yeah, this seems like that. So on the other hand, the spelling Arukas suggests a Hebrew word, Aruk, extended, but it is not a creation word. So there are some possibilities there, I guess. Maybe from the Greek, probably from the Greek. I think it would make more sense there. So,
also, let me point out that in the book of Genesis, it's just, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light.
Yeah,
that is not what happens here.
Right. This is like a huge extension of it.
This is a meta of that.
Yeah,
it would be like, hey, check out this flashlight, as opposed to a physicist going, I'm going to be breaking apart light into its basic components and explaining how it permeates the electromagnetic and magnetic forces.
It is
in these
nothing like that.
No,
not even slightly.
Those two are, well, I mean, they're different.
Oh yeah. Also, darkness here. Darkness gets created from this hard, heavy, very red creature named Archos.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas darkness was already on the face of the deep in the Bible.
True.
Right. So, very different. Very dissimilar.
Still stuff below him, like a void or whatever.
Yeah, there's
still
also,
more.
If darkness is on the face of the deep, that means that the deep is below the darkness. Whereas here it says that below the darkness, there is nothing else. Right?
I think the deep is supposed to be nothing.
Well, it's
or the
not
absence
clear.
Of things.
It's not clear what it is. I mean, if you look at the Babylonian stuff, Tiamat and Apsu are like watery bodies, right? So
yeah.
If you talk about the deep, to me, that implies some kind of watery body, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'll read chapter 27 then, since there's really not that much information about these guys. And I commanded that there should be taken from light and darkness, and I said, be thick, and it became thus. And I spread it out with the light, and it became water. And I spread it out over the darkness below the light, and then I made firm the waters, that is to say, the bottomless. And I made the foundation of light around the water, and created 7 circles from inside, and imagined the water like crystal, wet and dry, that is to say, like glass, and the circumcision of the waters and the other elements. And I showed each one of them its road, and the 7 stars, each one of them in its heaven, that they go thus, and I saw that it was good. And I separated between light and between darkness, that is to say, in the midst of the water, hither and thither. And I said to the light that it should be the day, and to the darkness that it should be the night. And there was evening and there was morning the first day. So
this is a huge extension of Genesis, right?
Yeah, but a very strange way to describe it. The circumcision of the waters and the other elements.
The circuit for water and other elements. This is where they're lining up like here's what you're going to do. Like as the sun, this will be the path that you take. This will be what you do. So he's like, instructing these forces, or these heavenly beings, whatever the
He's
conception
writing the
at the time
rules
was
for fire and stuff.
Yeah. This is like, everything in its own time, everything goes the way it's supposed to go, that kind of thing. So do you want me to read this chapter in the short version? Everything you read, I'll read the short versions again.
Yeah, go ahead.
Then encompassing myself with the light of the earth, I thickened it. I stretched it above the darkness. That's it. That's the shorter version.
That's
what?
Very short.
Yes.
Everything you've read so far?
Everything that he read, that entire chapter, the shorter version, I just read the whole thing.
Wow.
There's no 7 stars?
None of that. Nope.
Oh, wow.
Well, keep going.
Great. Chapter 28. And then I made firm the heavenly circle, and made that the lower water, which is under the heaven, collect itself together into one whole, and that the chaos become dry. And it became so.
This sounds a little Talmudic to me.
A little bit.
It seems, or maybe not Talmudic, Midrashic maybe. But either way, like it seems like since there maybe was confusion over what some of the things in Genesis exactly meant, like how it would have been, like the very specific things. This seems to be like an explanation for that. So they say like here's a thing that happens. By that was meant, and then they get more specific.
Out of the waves I created rock, hard and big, and from the rock I piled up the dry, and the dry I called earth, and the midst of the earth I called abyss, that is to say, the bottomless. I collected the sea in one place and bound it together with a yoke, and I said to the sea, Behold!
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 I give you your eternal limits, and you shalt not break loose from your component parts.
Yeah, so
thus I made fast the firmament. This day I called me the first created. Sunday.
So the yoke restraining the ocean could be a fragment of mythology going back to the harness by which Yam, the sea, was restrained in the Canaanite myth. In Job 38:10, the ever-threatening ocean is kept back by a barricade. But in 2 Enoch 28:4, the earth has become a solid shield above the lower deeps to keep them from surging up. Yeah, you have where all the water is coming from the deep, right?
So the abyss is just the ocean, right?
Because the ocean is placed on top of the abyss.
It's all the oceans, I guess, because
the water is bottomless, and the thing that is bottomless is called the abyss.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So
is that different from the nothing that's below that?
I mean,
well, that doesn't mean that there was like a lack of being anything below it. It just means that it keeps going forever.
Oh.
There can't be anything below it if it goes on forever.
Yeah, considering they had no way to
Just all the
explore.
greater infinities that you can't reach.
Yeah,
of
like,
course they have
explore,
no
right?
way to explore, but it's still an absurd cosmology.
Yeah,
here. Chapter 29. And for all the heavenly troops, I imagine the image and essence of fire. And my eye looked at the very hard, firm rock, and from the gleam of my eye, the lightning received its wonderful nature, which is both fire in water and water in fire, and one does not put out the other, nor does the one dry up the other. Therefore, the lightning is brighter than the sun, softer than water, and firmer than hard rock.
That was a weird verse there. Weird set of verses there.
Oh, that was just one verse.
Oh, was it? I have it in 2, but still.
Oh, the second verse starts, and from the rock I cut off a great fire, and from the fire I created the orders of the incorporeal 10 troops of angels, and their weapons are fiery, and their raiment a burning flame, and I commanded that each one should stand in his order. And from out the order of angels, having turned away with the order that was under him, conceived an impossible thought, to place his throne higher than the clouds above the earth, that he might become equal in rank to my power. And I threw him out from the height with his angels, and he was flying in the air continuously above the bottomless. So that's the fall of Satan, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so
Or Lucifer, right?
right. So because mine has which, by the way, that whole Lucifer thing, completely not in the shorter version. Completely not there. Not even a little bit. So yeah, cutting them off. You cut off a great fire, right? So while it's not an element in Genesis 1, it is important to seek for the background of this thought in 2nd Enoch.
Also, I'd like to point out that Piccolo's son is both Thoth and Enoch.
These are facts. So the Chaldean oracles state that everything comes from fire, but Ezekiel 28:16 has a connection between stones and fire, and the myth behind this could have Canaanite connections, as well as supplying the form of the Lucifer myth found here in 2nd Enoch. Even so, the derivation of fire from rock seems unparalleled. The reference to lightning suggests that the model is the striking of fire from flint. And note that 2nd Enoch's derivation of fire does not accord with the Greek belief in fire as one of the 4 or even the only primal element. In the Jewish tradition, Genesis 1 safeguarded the primacy of water. Even though Genesis 1 does not mention fire, the commentators brought it in. Apparently there's we don't have it, but there is some commentary from Rashi on Genesis 1:8, where I guess he's brings in fire as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was a big discussion among the pre-Socratic Greeks. You know, they the pre-Socratic philosophers in Greece, they adhered to a kind of material monism, right, where everything is X, right?
Sure.
So, and these usually took elemental forms. There were ones who were like, this is fire, this is water, this is ether.
Right, the good old ether.
Yep.
Also, I am just taking note here quick for the reference here to Lucifer.
Right, it's very strange
because I may want to include this somewhere.
The fall of Lucifer in 2nd Enoch occurs on the 2nd day of creation.
Yeah.
Long before the Watchers show up.
Yeah.
Well,
Very strange.
It says that we reconnected.
Yep.
Wow. Interesting.
So hopefully we're back. I know we lost connection there.
Yep.
But hopefully we are back.
That says excellent.
Well, that
says excellent.
Yeah.
So we're back.
Yeah. Sorry for the very short. Man.
Happened last time too.
Yeah, that's true. It did. OBS has just been
LBS.
not great recently.
Yeah, it sucks. But what I was saying is that the fall of Lucifer here occurs on the second day of creation. It occurs long before the Watchers. That means that there were fallen angels who were like in the area at the time that the Watchers were doing their thing, because presumably they're not mortal, right?
Right.
So this is just going on. It doesn't say that they were like imprisoned anywhere.
No, they're just stuck in the deep.
No, they're flying in the air continuously above the abyss.
Right, so that they don't fall in.
Yeah.
Why would they go in?
I mean, they could go down as far as they want.
I suppose, yeah, but like that would serve no purpose there, I don't think.
Yeah. Anyways, I'll let you start chapter 30. And
sure.
I'm gonna hop to the restroom.
Yeah, and in this version, it says the days as well. So I think yours noted Sunday as the first day, right?
Yeah, Sunday's the first day. Obviously, Monday is the second day.
Yeah, and then each section here just says like the day of the week.
Yeah. Now, interestingly enough, it does not say that for the second day. The second day doesn't have like, this is a Monday.
Right, exactly. It just says the second day.
In verse 3 of chapter 30, it mentions Wednesday.
Yeah, because it goes from Tuesday to Wednesday. It's like split in two parts here.
Yeah, so the third day is a Tuesday.
Yeah, and then
the
Wednesday.
Second day.
I'll add like all the extra stuff.
But it doesn't even mention the second day in chapter 29 at all. It doesn't say Monday. It doesn't say on the second day.
Right.
It doesn't say I called this the second day.
No,
Yeah.
it's just he did this as well.
Yeah. And it just takes place after what he says is the first day and before what he says is the
And
third
luckily, we know the days of the week. So
Yeah, luckily. I'll be right back.
Oh, okay.
Thursday.
Yeah, so now we are on to chapter 30, and it's Tuesday. And on the third day, I commanded the earth to make trees grow, large and fruit-bearing, and the mountains, all kind of sweet grass and all kinds of sown seed. And I laid out paradise as a garden, and I enclosed it, and I placed armed guards, angels aflame with fire, and thus I created the renewal of the earth. And then evening came, and then evening came and morning came, the fourth day. So the only commentary here is about the armed guards. So this conflation with Genesis 3:25 flouts the biblical chronology and obscures the significance of this arrangement as a consequence of sin. Right, because the angels were placed after the fall. The ones in the front with the huge fiery sword, right? That badass imagery. They are placed here at the very beginning. So this is
Very different.
Okay, so I just want to kind of point this out. So in the timeline for Supernatural, if anyone here watches Supernatural, so the lore there is that Gadriel was this angel at the gate, and he let Lucifer in, and that's what caused the falls. But that would, of course, assume that there was an angel there first, guarding the gate into the garden. And I guess that lines up closer with Second Enoch than it does with the Bible. So I'm gonna continue on here. That was
cherubim are set up in the Bible to guard the gate to Eden
Right,
later, after Adam and Eve get kicked out.
exactly, yeah. And on the fourth day, Wednesday. And on the fourth day I commanded, let there be great lamps on the heavenly circles. On the first, the highest circle, I placed the star Kronos. And by the way, it's...
You should finish this verse.
Okay. Place the star Kronos. On the second, lower down, I placed... Oh my God, these names are horrible. Aphrodite. On the third, Eris. On the fourth, the sun.
It says Zeus. Zoues.
Zeus.
Oh, that's what I have for the fifth.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Yeah, it just doesn't say the fourth one in here.
Really? Okay, well, that's interesting. We'll talk about that one. So yeah, on the fifth, Zeus. On the sixth, Hermes. And on the seventh, the lowest, the moon. So that was...
Does it say it adorned it with the lesser stars?
And with the lowest stars, I beautified the air below.
Yeah.
So all the other ones are insignificant. They're just really there to make it pretty.
So these are familiar names. Aphrodite, Ares, Zeus, Hermes, probably Artemis.
Or Hermes, maybe.
Might be Hermes.
They are certainly very, very close to that. But of course, it would make sense, right, with Kronos at the very beginning.
Right.
Yeah. So this is for chapter 30. All right. The scheme could be no better than a garbled almachist by some uninformed individual. Only a few of the planets are on Ptolemy's level. On Ptolemy's levels. In Second Enoch, the disposition of 7 planets on 7 heavenly circles has nothing to do with the cosmology of chapters 3 through 21. It is not even clear that the 7 crystalline circles of 2nd Enoch 27:3 are the same as the Pythagorean or Ptolemaic spheres. In any case, the 7 heavens of the apocalypses represent layers. 2nd Enoch 4:1 gives the impression that there are stars in the first heaven. I'm guessing those would be the ones that are like made pretty to adorn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But chapters 11 through 17 place sun and moon together on the 4th heaven. Note also that these planetary orbits are counted from the top down, whereas, the heavens are numbered from the bottom up. And then on the sun and Zeus, right?
Mm-hmm.
That whole thing that I guess it just wasn't in your version. It's not in the shorter version. None of this is in the shorter version.
Right.
By the way.
How dare the shorter version exclude all of this wonderful information?
Right.
The sun is not in this version, but Zeus and Hermes and Aphrodite and Eris.
Yeah, those are obviously really close there. So not only that, but it also lacks the word air in verse 4, except for the letter A, which interpreted as the conjunction makes it appear that sun, moon, and stars are all together in the lowest heaven. Yeah, so it's that's a weird one.
Very strange. Odd that they would choose these names.
Yeah. Well, I guess these. So at one point, the Greeks would have viewed the gods not as like individual entities necessarily, but they would like present themselves as these as actual things. Like if you
the swan, Zeus.
Yeah, swan, like the eagle also with Zeus, right? Like it's not that every time they saw an eagle, they'd be like, oh, that's Zeus, but they would think it's a manifestation
But
of
every time the
Zeus'
eagle
power.
wanted to fuck, that was probably Zeus.
Hey, listen, every time anything wants to fuck, it's Zeus.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, let's continue on here. And I appointed the sun over the illumination of the day, but the moon and stars over the illumination of the night. And the sun goes in accordance with each animal, and the 12 animals are the succession of the months, and I assign their names and the animals of their seasons and their connection with the newborn and their horoscopes. Wow.
Oh, so this is like, remember the zodiac they described earlier as the very poorly described 8th and 9th layers.
Yeah, and this is very different here. Well, not super different, but it is different. It says, the sun, that it should go according to each constellation, 12. And I appointed the succession of the months and their names and lives, their thunderings, and their hour markings, how they should succeed.
He's dictating time.
Well, yeah, he's
he
dictating
is
time.
dictating time and the procession of the stars.
Yeah,
right?
and the year, like how everything goes.
Whereas in your translation, that would imply that he names the animals, which is something that Adam does later on.
Well, no, I think he's talking about the months that he named,
Right.
not the animals.
Well, yeah.
Kind of both.
He just named he named the months, and then the animals he like assigned to the seasons.
Mhm.
So I mean, it makes sense,
But
right?
they are constellations. It's the zodiac.
Yeah, it's straight up telling you, and their horoscopes, and how they revolve. Then evening came and morning came, the 5th day. Thursday. And on the 5th day, I commanded the sea to engender fishes and feathered birds of many different kinds, and every kind of reptile that creeps on the earth and that walks on the earth on 4 legs and that flies through the air, male sex and female, and every kind of soul that breathes, the breath of all living things. And evening came and morning came, the 6th day. Friday Apocryphal Podcast. Okay, let's see how
Share
this
with
day,
your friends, family, neighbors.
Oh, yeah,
all that good stuff. Let's see how Friday was created.
Mhm.
And on the 6th day, I commanded my wisdom to create man out of the 7 components. So
Finish this verse and then we'll talk about it.
okay. Okay. So 1, his flesh from earth. 2nd, his blood from dew and from the sun. 3rd, his eyes from the bottomless sea. 4th, his bones from stone. 5th, his reason from the mobility of angels and from clouds. 6th, his veins and hair from grass of the earth. 7th, his spirit from my spirit and from wind.
Okay, so here it says his soul from my breath and from wind. But also, the point with the blood and the eyes are different here. It says, 2, his blood from the dew. 3, his eyes from the sun.
Ah, all right. That is different.
Yeah, they said from the deep for you.
Yeah, it says that some of the versions do derive man's eyes from the sun.
Mhm. So he never created wisdom. He does command wisdom.
It commanded my wisdom.
My wisdom would probably be the wisdom character that appears. in
The thing is, yes, it
Proverbs.
would
Yeah, he
it would
owns her.
make sense,
Yeah, he owns her.
right? I
She's
suppose,
his property.
right? But I mean, I suppose this is an acting thing that is making people here.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's almost like a guy playing a video game. He doesn't do anything. He just uses the tools and assets that exist in the video game to create said real quote end quote things, as opposed to imaginary, which is not using the tools yet.
By the way,
But also here, it kind of it puts a little distance, right? Because in other things, he directly creates things, right? But here he commands his wisdom to create man. Right?
yeah.
Well,
Well, this is kind of similar to how
Hold
light.
on, does Piccolo's son think I figured it out? Oh yeah, totally, I figured it out.
It kind of reminds me of the way that he made light and darkness, because first he made them into beings that create that for him or unleash it for him.
Well, he didn't even create them. Right?
Well, I think. I think
it talks about Adoyle and Arcas,
it doesn't say that he created them, but
he calls them down or up.
Right, but from the previous chapter before that, it said that he created everything that exists from things that don't exist.
No, he created the physical
from
and
invisible, right.
Right, the visible from the invisible. So, like, Adoyle and Arcas would have been invisible things, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's
very strange. Maybe once we get done with these sections, maybe we'll have more perspective on it.
Maybe.
So, yeah, and I gave him 7 properties. Hearing. Oh my God. Okay, so hearing to the flesh, sight to the eyes, smell to the spirit.
Oh, yeah.
Touch to the veins.
Sure.
Taste to the blood. Okay. To the bones, endurance. To the reason, sweetness. Big smile.
Okay.
Behold! I have thought up an ingenious poem to recite. Oh my God. Okay.
Please stop.
By the way, all
Lawrence, I can only imagine you saying that unironically, out of this context. That's behold, I have an ingenious poem, and I'm like, Lawrence, no.
Wait. Behold, I have an ingenious poem to recite.
Mm-hmm.
There once was a man from Nantucket.
No. That's ingenious, but no, you can't.
So I do want to note that the shorter version also. How about I just read that whole chapter to you?
Sure.
Oh, actually, just a good chunk of it. So let's skip Tuesday, right? Let's hop into Wednesday here. There is no Wednesday in the shorter version.
Nice.
There is a Thursday. Here's what happens on Thursday in the shorter version. And the sea I commanded to engender its fish, and every reptile that creeps on the earth, and every bird that flies. That's Thursday. And then there is Friday. When I had finished all this, I commanded my wisdom to create man. That's it.
Wow.
Very condensed version for you.
The short version's so short.
Isn't it, though?
We could probably read like 50 chapters of the short version.
Absolutely.
In one episode.
Yeah. So the chapter is still going on here. So, yeah, behold, I have thought up an ingenious poem to recite. Let's see how ingenious this poem is.
Are we on to the next chapter?
No.
Sweet.
From invisible and visible substances, I created man. From both his natures come both death and life. And as my image, he knows the world like no other creature. But even at his greatest, he is small. And again, at his smallest, he is great. I've heard better.
This is different here. Does it say that he placed him on Earth?
No. Oh, sorry. Well, he didn't. It doesn't say placed, I guess, but it says, and on the earth I assigned him to be a second angel, honored and great and glorious. And I assigned him to be a king, to reign on the earth, and to have my wisdom. And there was nothing comparable to him on the earth, even among my creatures that exist.
So this is slightly different in my version. It says here, I conceived a cunning saying to say, I created man from invisible spiritual and from visible physical nature. Of both are his death and life and image. He knows speech like some created thing, small in greatness and again great in smallness. And I placed him on earth, a second angel, honorable, great, and glorious, and I appointed him as ruler to rule on earth and to have my wisdom, and there was none like him of earth, of all my existing creatures.
And it looks like there is an anagram coming up here. Yeah, there was nothing comparable to him on earth, even among my creatures that exist, and I assigned to him a name from the 4 components. From east, A, from west, D, from north, A, from south, M, and then it also says south, M again, and north. So Adama, right? South, M, north, A. So I'm going to talk about this a little bit here. So the letters of the anagram are supplied as if from Greek. 2 manuscripts have south and north the wrong way around. The same error occurs in the Sibylline Oracles, 326, which I think we do have a copy of. They're in here. Yet 2 other manuscripts, a good combination, have it correctly. If the reading of J&R, those are the 2 manuscripts, is original, which is likely since it is correct, the coincidence of the error of P and P2, the previous ones that I mentioned where north and south are flipped, with the Sibylline Oracles is intriguing. If P and P2 is original and error innocently derived from the Sibylline Oracles, then J and R results from correction in Slav, but someone who knew the solution to the riddle in Greek. So, there are quite a few layers to that.
Yeah.
So, continuing on here, and I assigned to him 4 special stars and called his name Adam. All right then, 4 special stars.
Yeah.
And I gave him his free will, and I pointed out to him the 2 ways, light and darkness. And I said to him, "This is good for you, but this is bad," so that I might come to know whether he has love toward me or abhorrence, and so that it might become plain who among his race loves me. Whereas I have come to know his nature, he does not know his own nature. That is why ignorance is more lamentable than the sin, such as it is in him to sin. And I said, after sin, there is nothing for it but death. Okay, so here, before he even creates Eve, before he even put, there's not a tree, right? Because in this case, he's showing you, this is good, this is bad. Gotta make your choice. So even before all that, at least from Genesis, he's saying, if you sin, you die.
Yes, that is what he's saying.
Yeah. And I assigned a shade for him.
I put sleep into him.
Okay.
You put sleep in him.
Oh, well, it says that one too. And I imposed sleep upon him. Actually, hold on. What is that? I'm checking the note here. I'm sure that it says that there is a note, so there better be a note there. So the reading from him is according to P and P2. J and R read for him, perhaps under the influence of the preceding text. Okay, so all right, I guess. A little bit different there, I suppose, between manuscripts. I signed a shade for him, and I imposed sleep upon him, and he fell asleep. And while he was sleeping, I took from him a rib, and I created for him a wife, so that death might come to him by his wife. That's just rude.
It doesn't say that. Well, yeah, it does.
That's just rude. Okay.
That's funny.
And I took his last word, and I called her name Mother. That is to say, Eva. Well, yeah, but the spelling's here.
Ava.
I have Yuva. This looks like Yuva to me. At least
well,
with
you
the
speak
spelling.
Russian, which is like some crazy slurry, like.
Yeah, so the play on words goes back to Hebrew, where the word mother, is made out of the first and last letters of Adam. Okay. So his last word means the last letter or syllable of his name.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Interesting.
No, this
So-
is Eve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Eve.
It's not Lilith.
It is not. No. So, on to chapter 31, I suppose. By the way, all that stuff that we just read for chapter 30, all the good stuff, I guess, not in the short version, like at all.
Wow.
Yeah. Really, really disappointing. The short version left out all the good stuff. All right. So on to 31, I suppose.
Yes.
So the title, God hands over paradise to Adam and gives him a command to look upon the heavens open and that he might look upon the angels singing the triumphal song. Quite a title. Quite a title.
Indeed.
That's like old books. Old books have really long titles like that.
That they do.
Yeah. Adam, mother, earthly and life. And I created a garden in Edom in the east so that he might keep the agreement and preserve the commandment. And I created for him an open heaven so that he might look upon the angels singing the triumphal song.
I was going to quick say to Tomic, I don't know if it's trying to contradict anything, but this is apocryphal. So
Yeah, very apocryphal, but yes.
Will have contradictions as opposed to it might.
Yeah, I mean there are. Yeah, so this is to me it kind of reads like people trying to like explain inconsistencies maybe, because like they know, like rabbis noticed inconsistencies.
Mm-hmm.
They did a lot actually, because they did read it very carefully.
Yeah.
But because they were acting as apologists, they had to explain those inconsistencies some way. So instead of like right now, I think the best way to do it is through like some textual reconstruction or from like redactions, right? Compositional history, stuff like that is the best way to answer those questions, I think. However, their solution was like, okay, well, we already know this is perfect text. We're just understanding it wrong. Mm-hmm. So that's the way they went about it.
Yep.
So this really reads to me like a rabbi trying to explain inconsistencies that they saw.
Makes sense.
It may be that. It may be
like
someone
I'm not
who
saying
didn't
this is,
have access to the books, but who heard the stories.
That is also possible.
It might be a number of things, really.
We are going to do other religions someday.
No, we definitely do other religions.
We
talk about other religions, not on this show specifically.
Right.
Yeah.
But
But
I'm saying we'll make a dedicated effort to doing other religions someday.
Yeah, but we do have videos on other religions. Yeah,
Surely.
absolutely. All right, let's continue on here.
Do it.
And the light, which is never darkened, was perpetually in paradise, and the devil understood how I wished to create another world, so that everything could be subjected to Adam on the earth, to rule and reign over it. The devil is of the lowest places, and he will become a demon, because he fled from heaven, Sotona, because his name was Satanael. In this way, he became different from the angels. His nature did not change, but his thought did, since his consciousness of righteous and sinful things changed, and he became aware of his condemnation and of the sin which he sinned previously. And that is why he thought up the scheme against Adam. In such a form, he entered paradise and corrupted Eve, but Adam he did not contact. So this is
sort of
Lucifer,
like saying that Lucifer was the snake.
Yes, that's exactly what they're doing.
Wow.
Yeah, not just
which
sort
is
of,
obviously extra biblical.
Yeah.
This character, so it's not Lucifer.
It's
Satona.
Or Satanael or
yeah,
something
that's
like
like the name.
Well, Satanael is his name later, I guess.
Right. Yeah,
But-
I feel like it goes through evolution.
I just want to point out, so in chapter 29, Satanael was the name that was used in the long version.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying that I think that they have several names, like God has several names.
Yeah, but apparently it's only present here only in P's secondary chapter headings. Okay, so it seems like that's the only spot that one pops up.
Mm-hmm.
At least in most manuscripts, I guess one has it there.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are some names here. I do have some commentary on it, but once we get through the story, then I'm going to add the commentary.
Okay.
But on account of her nescience, I cursed them. But those whom I had blessed previously, them I did not curse. And those whom I had not blessed previously, even them I did not curse. Neither mankind I cursed, nor the earth, nor any other creature, but only mankind's evil fruit bearing. This is why the fruit of doing good is sweat and exertion.
Work, toil, suffer.
Trying hard. Yeah.
Yes. So that's your original sin doctrine, right?
So yeah,
thrown out the window, because it says explicitly that he did not curse man, but only the fruit bearers, which were Adam and Eve, right?
But only mankind's evil fruit bearing.
Yes. So this isn't something that applies to all human beings.
Maybe the
it
only
says
ones that can
explicitly,
reproduce.
I cursed not man.
Yeah, that is true. So let's talk about some of this stuff. So the manuscripts all disagree in small details, but even the omission of a conjunction can make a big difference to the connections of phrases and sentences. Valence translation is based on extensive emendation. In particular, this putting Satan in charge of the lower regions is highly conjectural. It is unknown how Charles obtained Satomail, for all manuscripts read Satanael in contrast to Satona. The double use of Yako suggests that two puns are involved. First, the devil will become a demon because he fled. So I guess the demon is Beshi, I think maybe, and fled is Bezi. The parallelism of this wordplay to the following pun on Satan throws doubt on Valence emendation of Bessie. Secondly, he will be Satona because his name was Satanael. The difficulty lies with the intervening words where each manuscript is different. Oh boy, yeah, they are different. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So in Second Enoch world, the snake in the garden is Satan.
Yes.
Right. In Bible world, the snake in the garden is just a snake in the garden.
Yeah.
Not Satan.
Yeah. Not even a snake necessarily. A serpent. That's what it says, right?
Yeah. Also, here, we've lost some characters, right? When Satan got cast out of heaven, he took his angels with him. Here, we just have Satan. We have no word about what happened to his angels.
I guess, yeah.
I guess they're also demons?
I mean, with the...
Or both of them are there, and some of them are each. Something like that.
The thing is, I think, the demon thing was wordplay more than anything. But yeah, I'm not sure. I wish we did have more commentary on this.
I mean, it's wordplay. That's
yes,
the purpose for the title being given to them.
Yeah.
Right.
Although I just do want to say that this isn't the first time that the connection pops up, but it's not in Genesis.
Right.
The connection between like Lucifer, Satan, and the snake in the garden.
Mm-hmm.
That's not in Genesis. All right, so I'm going to let you continue on.
No, you should read chapter 32.
I should read chapter 32?
It's short.
Okay, fine. I'll read chapter 32. After Adam's transgression, and this is the chapter heading. After Adam's transgression, God expels him into the earth from which he had been taken, but he does not wish to destroy him in the age to come.
That was a chapter heading?
That's the chapter heading.
Longer than the chapter.
No. The chapter is a little bit longer than the chapter heading.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to him, you are earth, and into the earth once again you will go, out of which I took you. And I will not destroy you, but I will send you away to what I took from you. Then I can take you once again at my second coming. And I blessed all my creatures, visible and invisible, and Adam was in paradise for 5 hours and a half.
Wow, that was a really long time.
A really specific amount of time. Okay.
Yeah.
And I blessed the seventh day, which is the Sabbath, in which I rested from all my doings.
Now, this is different in my version. And I blessed the seventh day, which is the Sabbath, on which he rested from all his works.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Which
so
could imply that Adam's resting at this point in the story.
I mean, since it's a Sabbath day.
Anyways, I'll start on with chapter 33 then. Hey, if you're enjoying the stream so far, give it a like, comment, share it with your friends, family, neighbors. Spread it around.
Convicts, we got pastors, you could give it to them too.
Send it to your priests.
Yeah, they would really love to see this, apparently.
Nuns.
President Biden, he needs to know.
Yeah, Biden, absolutely.
Monks. Satanic ritual leaders.
Yeah, those especially want to see this one.
Yep. Chapter 33. And I appointed the 8th day also, that the 8th day should be the first created after my work, and that the first 7 revolve in the form of the 7,000, and that at the beginning of the 8,000th there should be a time of not counting, endless, with neither years nor months nor weeks nor days nor hours. And now, Enoch, all that I have told you, all that you have understood, all that you have seen of heavenly things, all that you have seen on earth, and all that I have written in books by my great wisdom, all these things I have devised and created from the uppermost foundation to the lower and to the end, and there is no counselor nor inheritor to my creations. I am self-eternal, not made with hands, and without change. My thought is my counselor. My wisdom and my word are made, and my eyes observe all things how they stand, hear, and tremble with terror. If I turn away my face, then all things will be destroyed. And apply your mind, Enoch, and know him who is speaking to you, and take thence the books which you yourself have written, and I give you Samuel and Reguel, who led you up, and the books, and go down to earth, and tell your sons that I have all that I have told you, and all that you have seen from the lower heaven up to my throne, and all the troops.
So in some Jewish traditions, Samuel is another name for Satan.
Interesting.
Where have we seen those names before?
Samuel and Raguel.
Or at least a really close one. Raguel, was that in Raguel? Was that in Tobit? No,
Raphael's in Tobit.
Right, okay. Raguel. Where was that one? I remember that name.
I'm pretty sure.
I am sincerely thinking about this. I super remember it being apocryphal as well, but I don't know what it was in. You should check, Ruben, yeah.
Was it in First Enoch?
It probably was, yes.
Was that one of the...
Shout out to Enoch again. Thank you.
Was that one of the
Already
angels
Enoch.
there?
Raguel is almost always referred to as the Archangel of Justice, Fairness, Harmony, Vengeance, and Redemption. He is sometimes known as the Archangel of Speech. In the book of Enoch, Raguel is one of the 7 angels whose role is to watch. His number is 6,
right.
And his function is to take vengeance on the world of the luminaries who have transgressed God's laws.
So he's the guy that punished the Watchers in some ways.
Yeah. All right.
And Sariel is
It's a close name.
Instead of Samuel.
Yeah, so they're really close.
Is referred to in Wikipedia's entry on Second Enoch when they talk about this.
Really?
It says, the patriarch Enoch was carried as a mortal to and from heaven by the angels Raguel and Sariel.
All right. So, yeah, I knew I recognized the names. They seem very, very familiar.
Yeah.
I was like, where have I heard these before? This was definitely apocryphal too.
Now, Sariel is one of the 7 holy angels who is of eternity and trembling. In Kabbalistic lore, he is one of the 7 angels of the earth. Origen identified Sariel as one of the 7 angels who considered primordial powers by the Ophites. In Gnosticism, Sariel is invoked for his protective powers.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just knew that I recognized the names from something that we read before.
Anyways. For I created all forces, and there is none that resists me or that does not subject himself to me. For all subject themselves to my monarchy, and labor for my sole rule. Give them the books of the handwritings, and they will read them, and will know me for the creator of all things, and will understand how there is no other God but me. And let them distribute the books of your handwriting, children to children, generations to generation, nation to nations. And I will give you, Enoch, my intercessor, the archistratege, Michael, for
the main general,
yeah,
like the top dog.
We mentioned this last time.
Yeah.
For the handwritings of your fathers, Adam, Seth, Enos, Canaan, Mahalaleel, and Jared, your father. Chapter 34.
Wait, what?
Chapter
34?
That's the end of chapter 33.
Is it?
And here it is.
Wow. There's a good chunk here that is that's, I guess, just left out, I suppose. Should I read that section?
Mm-hmm.
And they will not be destroyed until the final age. So I have commanded my angels, Ariuk and Pariuk, whom I have appointed on the earth as their guardians. And I have commanded the seasons so that they might preserve them, so that they might not perish in the future flood, which I shall create in your generation.
Wow.
Flood-proof them.
So that was a whole section that was just not in your version.
No, not at all.
Interesting. I'm going to look to... You can get started on 34.
Chapter 34.
Yeah, but I'm going to look at this to see if there's an explanation.
Yes, this is chapter 34. They have rejected my commandments and my yoke. Worthless seed has come up, not fearing God, and they would not bow down to me, but have begun to bow down to vain gods, and denied my unity, and have laden the whole earth with untruths, offenses, abominable lecheries, namely one with another, and all manner of other unclean wickedness, which are disgusting to relate. And therefore I will bring down a deluge upon the earth, and will destroy all men, and the whole earth will crumble together into great darkness.
Yeah, so it, just to hit on the last chapter there. So the section is just missing in one of the manuscripts. So I guess the one, it was in P apparently. I can look up which specific one that is, but there are a lot of them.
All right.
But that one just is lacking it.
All right. Well, we're in chapter 35 now.
All right, there we go.
Behold!
Behold!
Behold.
From their seed shall arise another generation much afterwards, but of them many will be very insatiate. He who raises that generation shall reveal to them the books of your handwriting, of your fathers, to whom he must point out the guardianship of the world to the faithful men and workers of my pleasure, who do not acknowledge my name in vain. And they shall tend they shall tell another generation, and those others having read shall be glorified thereafter more than the first.
Yeah, so it seems like a repetition of the thing from before, where you're gonna pass it down.
Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, this happens in First Enoch as well.
It does.
And
that was, because it's interesting because of the flood issue. That was one of the reasons why the Ethiopian, that's one of the reasons that First Enoch didn't accept. That was the reasons that non-Ethiopian churches didn't accept First Enoch was because they looked at it and they were like, how did this survive the flood? And that was one of the issues for them.
But here it's explained that it's because it's handed down, even though...
Yeah, but there's specific people who were preserved.
It does not say anyone will be preserved in chapter 34. It says all men will be destroyed. And then in chapter 35, it says, from their seed shall arise another generation, which is not possible if they're all destroyed.
Maybe they're just talking about the wicked, the bad ones.
No, it says all.
Oh, no, they're
all
just talking
men.
about sperm banks, the first ones they ever invented.
Oh, yeah. Chapter 36. Now, Enoch, I give you the term of 30 days to spend in your house, and tell your sons and all your household that they may hear from my face what is told them by you, that they may read and understand how there is no other God but me, and that they may always keep my commandments and begin to read and take in the books of your handwriting. And after 30 days I shall send my angel for you, and he will take you from earth and from your sons to me. Chapter 37.
This is the
last chapter of the day.
Yep.
And the Lord called upon one of the older angels, terrible and menacing, and placed him by me, in appearance white as snow, and his hands like ice, having the appearance of great frost. And he froze my face because I could not endure the terror of the Lord, just as it is not possible to endure a stove's fire and the sun's heat and the frost of the air. And the Lord said to me, Enoch, if your face be not frozen here, no man will be able to behold your face. And that is the end of chapter 37.
And Tomic, thank you for the $5. Do you personally think Second Enoch was created by a Gentile Christian or Jewish Christian? It's a really tough call. I can see why people would have had issues.
I think it was made by a Gentile Christian.
Think Gentile Christian?
Yeah. I don't know why else it would have all the Greek stuff that it has. And
hold on. I mean, you're aware of how synchronistic Judaism has the capability to be.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Yeah.
I'm also aware that they got fundamental details of the beginning of Genesis wrong.
Yeah.
I don't think that a Jewish Christian would be so...
Fair enough.
So different.
Fair enough. Although theologically speaking, I guess in some of the more ethical questions, I feel like it's more in line with with Jewish Christians than with Gentile ones.
You have to keep in mind that it's also Slavonic, right?
True, yeah.
Completely different region of the planet.
Right, but those are the manuscripts that we have left.
Mm-hmm.
There were probably other originals in a different language, probably Greek.
Probably, but we don't know.
Well, we don't. Yeah,
it could.
That'd be cool if we did.
It could not be. It could be that we have the oldest copies.
I highly doubt it.
How would you know?
Well, first of all, the fact that pretty much every surviving copy we have, they're not that far apart in age from each other.
Yeah.
And yet there are so many differences between them. They're so incredibly different. They're all there had to be a tradition that has been going on for at least some time before you get like long and short recensions of this size. There had to be a considerable gap in time. So I would think
that there was like a dude who delivered this orally, and he had a cult, and those cult members wrote it down, but remembered it differently
from one generation.
Yeah, I think a game of telephone between 10 people in a room can destroy a few words.
But those are each different generations. It's one person to the. When I'm saying generation is like one person is a generation.
Well, I'm saying that we don't know how many times the story was told to somebody, and then they went and they walked across a bunch of land and told someone else, and then that person walked and went across. I'm saying that the fact it could have been within one 15-year to 30-year span or one generation.
What I'm saying is,
let me make this very clear to you, right? If this were like just from a textual tradition, right? Explain the extreme differences in certain chapters, where you can have a chapter that's like 3 sentences in one version that goes on for paragraphs in a different version. That wouldn't happen unless like the copies were like completely destroyed that they were copying off of. But even if that were the case, they probably would recognize that it was like damaged and seek out a different copy of the book to reference.
This was there's a discussion on that particular question in the introduction to it in here. And basically it comes down to they don't exist like together as one. The thing that we're reading now is a reconstruction. They notice that it's all from like the same work. But it's kind of in our surviving manuscripts, it's sporadic. So they had different uses. So a shorter recension would come from like maybe they just wanted like to have like a summary of something and use it in another work, and then someone later would read that work and kind of take that to be Second Enoch, while someone who had a more complete version of the text would look at that and go Second Enoch.
I don't think it's that old a book.
I mean, in comparison to like biblical books, no, but I still think that there was a tradition behind this.
Yeah,
maybe like I don't know what was it. A lot of scholars think that it's from maybe the 1st century. I don't know if it's that old necessarily.
I don't see how someone would come to the conclusion that how old is the oldest living manuscript of Second Enoch? The oldest.
They're all
fragment. The oldest piece.
I think they're all from they're all medieval. They're all medieval.
Yeah, they're all medieval. Yeah. And you know what that suggests to me? That it's a medieval work.
That's not how I don't see work at all.
How you would assume that the book is over 1,000 years older than the oldest like scrap that we have of it. That doesn't make any sense to me. Like,
it does.
What are the? Hold on. What are the?
It does lend to a theory that that's when it was from.
That's a ridiculous way of looking at it. So if like let's take a work like Genesis. Yeah. We have no originals. Do you think
we have no originals?
Right, but you can't just look at the oldest surviving manuscript of Genesis and be like, that's when it was made.
Yeah, you can't be like, it's 1,000 years older than the oldest surviving manuscript of Genesis that we have. That makes sense. We have no evidence to suggest that that's the case whatsoever. Unless you have some direct quotes that are inscribed in architecture somewhere.
While dating the text is the thing is dating this is difficult, which is why there has been an incredible debate, and it ranges between the 1st century.
Here's that debate.
And the 9th century. Like,
how would it be the 1st century? Name one piece of evidence that would suggest that it's from the 1st century.
The association between the snake in the garden and Satan.
Oh, yeah? You mean that thing that's still happening now?
Yes.
So you're
it's obviously older than now.
Yeah. Okay, but why would
the thing is we're trying to
if you're suggestive?
If you're trying to set a date like this is the earliest it can be, right? So if you have theology here that at the earliest can be like the 1st century,
right? You had belief structures that only existed or were more
I don't think just to be clear, I don't think that it is from the 1st century.
Yeah,
I don't exactly know when it's from. Nobody does, but I am saying that I can see why there has been such disagreement about it.
Okay, I'm going to guess that this is written by a Gentile Christian.
Okay.
In the 9th century.
Okay.
And that the copies that we have of scraps from it aren't that much newer than the original manuscript.
I think that a Gentile Christian writing this is probably accurate. I would agree with you. I think it lines up more with that. On the date, not sure. I think it might be older. Not 1st century old necessarily, but older.
We know.
I think we'd have
it's hard to date because there's not much, because this entire story takes place in in a primordial past. Dating the actual work is hard because there's not specific historical things we can reference.
In addition to that, we know that the author of this book or authors of this book read 1st Enoch.
Yes.
And we know the details in 1st Enoch are different. So it has to have come from a point where 1st Enoch wasn't readily available anymore. Why else would they get the details different? Why else would they be wrong about things that are detailed in 1st Enoch?
Well, there's a couple
and in Genesis.
Hold up, there's a couple. There's 3 things I could say about that. One is that they could have their own agenda about what they want the script to mean and how it wants to be associated, and they may have a political agenda behind that. So that's kind of 1 and 2. And 3, they, it was really important. You have to look at the type of style of writing at the time and the type of information that they had access to and the type of information they venerated to get a better gist of when it was written as well. Because we may have scraps that are old, but they may not be the oldest because, they're recopies of recopies or whatever, and all we have left of them is that. But the style of writing would give us a better indication about how and when it was written.
I mean, yeah, style of writing is something that scholars do look at, although because these things have been changed so much,
their styles
it's
reflect more of the era it was copied in than the era it was written in necessarily.
Right,
I'm aware.
And it does depend on how a copyist would have done it.
Right.
Would they
and
have just
that's
added a
why
few words?
It's so hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Would they have added a few words, or would they change entire sentence structures? That's
King James. Let's,
I mean, I don't know about that. I can say, Lawrence, thou art an impudent cur, right?
Yeah, and you can write stylistically,
but I'm saying
that.
And then someone using that methodology to date something would say, obviously, that sentence was said in the 1500s. There's absolutely no way that it could come as recently as 2021.
They never base it off of one sentence.
Okay, well, if I went on a long diatribe of that and wrote it down and weathered the pages.
The thing is, you could absolutely, people have tried to fake stuff like that.
Yeah, and you kind of can, because if you put it in a weathering chamber with that, basically you can make something
the most
anatomically older by blasting it with radiation in a vacuum chamber.
Yeah, if I do that, how are you going to date it?
Yes, if you blast something in a vacuum chamber to specifically make it look older than it is.
Yeah.
And I write it in a style that makes it appear older than it is.
Man,
you, sir, could claim something. You can make claims, but people will be mad when they find out you're lying.
How are they going to find out?
Better technology in the future when we don't have to just blast things with technology.
The biblical authors, that's what they've been doing the whole time, right? They have been blasting things in vacuum chambers.
And leaving little fragments. This is the fragment that was left.
The
and
Bible,
look how old it is now.
The Bible was written in 1905. And
Good claims.
This is all bullshit.
Amazing.
Yeah, and they just made
the real history of Earth will astound you. Even the scientists are lying. Yeah,
I feel like that would make a good April Fool's video.
Right. Let's get Thoth in on this. During April Fools, we'll have a good time creating our new alternate history.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I do find the idea of it being written by a Jewish Christian unlikely.
Yeah, I definitely lean towards Gentile Christian more.
Yeah.
On date, I'm still not sold in any direction.
See, I would assume that this is a later book, and by virtue of being a later book, there would be more Gentile Christians than Jewish
That would also
Christians.
work as well. Either way, thank you for the question, Thomas.
Also, if it's written by a Gentile Christian, that increases the likelihood that it is later rather than earlier.
I mean, if we're just talking about probability, like base probability, then yeah. But either way, that was the end of the reading for the day. I think we might be. Is it Melchizedek next week? I don't know. I'd have to check.
It's something next week.
Wow! Holy shit!
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Either way, hope you enjoyed the show. Even though we started a little bit late, we did have some issues. We even had like a little cut off in the middle of the show too.
Yeah,
I can't tell you what does that.
There's 68 chapters in Second Enoch. We'll probably do, a couple more weeks of Second Enoch. Then might do Third Enoch.
Maybe. I don't know.
The Hebrew book of Enoch.
Maybe not one
by Rabbi Ishmael ben Elisha, the high priest.
Oh, damn.
That's definitely who wrote it.
Absolutely. So, you know what? Make sure, if you have not already, like and subscribe. Share it around with all the peoples that you know, with all the nations, and because they definitely want to see this. If you want to support us in other ways, we have a wish list. The link is in the description, and you can add books to this table. You can get us books for long form content that we will use as sources. We also have a Patreon. You could become a patron. You could win t-shirts, including this amazing Behold t-shirt. Very, very good t-shirt.
That's
right there.
That's an amazing t-shirt. Also, look at this print error.
The print. Oh my, what is that?
Printing error.
Okay, so it's like cut in half and then moved.
Yeah.
That is weird. Okay, that is a hell of a printing error. So yeah, you can just get a shirt if you want. We have that in the top of the chat there. You can just get yourself a shirt. If you don't want to take the chances, you can just do that.
You can check out our Amazon wish list where we have tons of books. Well, I'm saying
Facebook and Twitter is always free to follow. Be a patron again.
You know what?
If you're not a patron
you can
already,
check out our Patreon.
If you're already a patron,
you can
make
be
another
on
account.
This show. You can be on this show.
Landon, that's a shout out to you. You
go
got to
to
make
our
another
Patreon.
Landon Knoll account.
Yep. And you can buy us books on our Amazon wish
Thanks
list.
for repeating all that.
And you can purchase a t-shirt from Teespring.
Oh, no.
And you can go to our Patreon.
Oh, you really broke Ruben.
And you can like us on Facebook and Twitter.
Okay, all right.
Great, amazing.
We will
see you on Sunday, where you
Friday,
can like us on Patreon. Because your wish list.
And then you can check us out on Amazon for our wish list.